Hello students, Standard 7, revision of chapter number 3, Fiber to Fabric. In last few videos, we discussed about one of the animal fiber, that is wool. We saw that which animals gives us wool and different type of wools. Then we also learn about the process, the steps involved in obtaining the wool fibers and then how to make the clothes. Now the other animal fiber, that is the silk. We are going to revise about the silk, that how we obtain silk from silkworm. What is the life cycle, life history of the silkworm, and how they are reared, and so on. We know that silk fibers are obtained from the silkworm, and that rearing of silkworm for obtaining silk, that process is known as sericulture. So what is sericulture? The process of shearing the silkworms to obtain silk is known as the sericulture, in which we have to keep in mind how we have to give them food and some other arrangement that we will talk about it later on. So now, before we go to the discuss of obtaining silk, we must have a knowledge of the interesting life history of the silkworm, silk moth actually. Now, generally, in most of the animals, we see that the mother gives birth directly to the same child or same species, but in some of cases, maybe from the eggs also, but in some of the cases, what happens when the newborn is there, it is not exactly same as the parents. And before they get the body same exactly their parents, they have to pass through a different stages, and that is also known as metamorphosis. So here the female moth lay so many eggs, and that from the eggs they hatch larvae. Means not directly the silk moth is coming out of the eggs, but first larva, like a caterpillar, they are called caterpillar or the silkworms. So the first stage is from eggs to larva or the caterpillar, or they are also known as the silkworm. Now they eat the leaves of the generally mulberry trees, and then the caterpillars grows. They eat too much and grow in size. The next stage of the life history is called pupa. So what is that? When the caterpillar is big enough, after eating, then it shook its head in the form of English 8, and they make swings and make the weaves a net to hold itself. From the body they secrete a type of liquid, and then they shake the head in the shape of English 8, and then around their body they make the covering, and then they are covered in that, and that stage is called pupa, and that covering is known as the cocoon. So now in the cocoon, the caterpillar will be completed into the what you call it, the adult silk moth. So during the movements of the head, the caterpillar secretes fibers which are made up of the protein, and as I told you, they shake their heads in the 8 shape, and then the protein fibers are secreted, and when they cool down, they are hardened when they are exposure to the air, and then it becomes a silk fiber. Now, as I told you, the caterpillar will be completely covered by these fibers inside and turns into pupa, and the covering is known as the cocoon. And the further development of silk moth is going on inside of the pupa. Here is the figure of the life cycle. You can see the different stages here. From the egg, the larva is coming out, and then the larva is coming into the pupa, and then the complete silk moth is obtained. So that is the life history of the silk moth. Now here you will see that the other question is how silk fibers of different textures are prepared. So we can see that the silk yarn is obtained from the cocoon of the silk moth. So now all these different type of fibers are different from each other in the texture. There are coarse, some are smooth, some are shiny, etc. So the tussar silk, the muga silk, the kosa silk, etc. are obtained from cocoons spun by different types of moths. So there are different types of moths. So when they weave that cocoon, they are of different textures. Some are little coarse, some are very smooth, some are very shiny, etc. So by this rearing the different type of moths, we can find the different varieties of textures of the silk. And the most common silk moth is the mulberry silk moth. Mulberry silk moth means that the silkworm which is reared on the trees of mulberry, because that is the very interesting to know that they like the mulberry leaves. They like to eat, that is the special choice of them to eat the mulberry silk moth. So mulberry leaves. So that moth which are on the reared on the tree of the mulberry, they are known as mulberry silk moth, and that is the most popular silk, that is the mulberry silk. So the silk fiber from the cocoon of those moth is very sharp, very lustrous and elastic, and also can be dyed in the different colors. So therefore it is very popular. So the mulberry silk moth, they make the silk is very popular, because as I told you, it is very shiny, very smooth, and it is lustrous, elastic, and it can be dyed in different beautiful colors also. Now the other thing that we have to learn about it, that the different type of silk is obtained. You go to the tailor and ask him about the silk, different type of silk, or to a textile mill or the shop also, then they will tell you which type of silk are there. Different type of sari from the different silk material are obtained, like the tussar silk, eri silk, muga silk, etc. And that are the very different, and sometimes the synthetic fibers are also same like the silk are obtained. Now we have to learn about the another things, that is the rearing of silkworm. explain the rearing of silkworm. It means that how they are giving food and that thing. A female silk moth lays 100 of eggs at a time, and the eggs are stored carefully on the strip of cloth of paper, and then it is sold to the silkworm farmers. So those people who are working with this sericulture are known as silkworm farmers. So when the eggs are produced, eggs are laid by the female moth, then they are kept, stored carefully on the piece of cloth, and then they are sold to the farmers. Now what will they do? The farmers keep eggs under hygienic conditions. Hygienic conditions means that they cannot get any disease through the the microorganisms, etc. So, and then under suitable conditions of temperature and humidity, means not too much high temperature, not very low temperature, humidity is also not too much. So that in that condition they will grow properly. Now the eggs are warmed to a suitable temperature for the larva to hatch from eggs. Because if the suitable temperature will not be there, they will not hatch to the larva. And then this is done when mulberry trees bear a fresh crop of leaves, because that time there is so many leaves will be there. The larvae called caterpillars or silkworms eat day and night and increase enormously in size. Means they eat too much every day and night. Whole time they are eating and eating and eating, and therefore enormously they grow in size in few days. Now what will happen that time? The larvae are kept in clean bamboo trays. Clean bamboo trays made from the bamboo, and along with freshly chopped mulberry leaves, so that they can eat that mulberry leaves and grow properly. After 25 to 30 days, this process will going on to eat that mulberry leaves, and then they will stop eating because they are grown in size. After 25 to 30 days, they stop eating and move to a tiny chamber of bamboo in the tray to spin cocoons. So then after 30 days, they stop eating, and then they will go into that mulberry chamber, tiny chamber, and they start spinning that cocoons. How? You know that they start shaking the head, and during that time they will secrete fibers, liquid fibers made from protein, which when exposed to the air, they are getting harder, and they will completely cover the caterpillar, their own body in it, and they make the pupa. Then small tracks or twigs may be provided in the trays to which cocoon gets attached, and the caterpillar or silkworm spins the cocoon inside, which develops the silk moth. So that is the whole theory about the rearing of silkworms. So at every stage we have to be careful. First of all, the hygienic conditions, the eggs are kept in the hygienic conditions, and then what will happen? They will be given the proper temperature, proper humidity, and then when the fresh crop of leaves are there, the larvae are produced, and larvae they are eating day and night, eating so many mulberry leaves and grow enormous in size, and then they are kept in the bamboo trays with freshly chopped mulberry leaves. They will eat it, and then after 25 to 30 days, when they stop eating, then they go to the tiny chamber and then start spinning the head and make the cocoons around it. So that is the thing about it. Now there is a story about discovery of the silk. The exact time of discovery of silk is perhaps unknown. Nobody knows it. But according to an old Chinese legend, the first started in China. The invention of silk is started in China. But for a long time, they keep it as a secret. So nobody knows what is the origin of the silk was discovered. According to a Chinese legend, the Empress Si Lung Chi was asked by the Emperor Yuan Ti to find the cause of the damaged leaves of mulberry trees growing in their garden. So in their garden there was mulberry trees, and they observed that the leaves of the trees are getting eaten. Why it is happening? So they give an order to find the cause of the damage of the leaves. Then what happened? The empress found white worms eating up mulberry leaves. They find out that the white worms are eating that mulberry leaves. That were actually the caterpillar of the silk. But that time nobody was understanding about it. She also noticed that they are spinning shiny cocoons around them. But that time also nobody had idea that they are spinning, that is the silk that we can use to make the fibers, and from that we can make the very costly fabrics. Then what happened? Accidentally a cocoon dropped into a cup of tea, and a tangle of delicate threads separated from the cocoon. So a moth with the cocoon, it fall down in the tea, and then they saw that the fine thread can be drawn out, and then they started to take out that fibers, and then it is known as the silk fibers. Silk industry began in China and was kept a closely guarded secret for hundreds of years. So hundreds of years it was in the secret. Nobody was knowing about it, and therefore nobody knows the original time of the discovery. Later on, traders and travelers introduced silk to other countries, and then therefore the root is known as the silk root also. Now after the cocoons are there, then how will they make silk from it? There is a question here. How the silk fibers explain the process of obtaining silk threads from cocoon. Now that, so a pile of cocoons is used for obtaining silk fibers. So many cocoons are gathered, a pile, and then they are used to make the silk fibers. The cocoons are kept under the sun or boiled or exposed to steam. Either they are put in the sunlight or boiled or steam is given to them. Then what happens? The silk fibers separate out. Due to the heat, the silk fibers are separate out, and that the process of taking out threads from the cocoon for use as silk is called reeling the silk. Reeling is done in special machines, and then which unwind the threads of fibers of silk from the cocoon, and then the silk fibers are spun into the silk threads and then woven into silk clothes by the weavers, and then the clothing materials are made from the silk. So here we discussed all the questions in the assignment, will be followed by the PDF, and you have to write down the answers on your own. Thank you very much.